Hey, what's up, everybody? This is another episode of Fourth Person Point of View. Hope y'all are enjoying yourself. I got some great stuff today. I've been following this election. It shows y'all love politics. So, what do we have today? I don't know if you're paying attention, but you should. This is a memorandum from the United States Office of Personnel and Management up in old Washington, D.C. This was a memorandum issued on January 22nd, 2025 to the department heads and acting heads of all departments and agencies. So this right here, in a nutshell, basically ends the teleworking. And as a person who was in the military during COVID, I know what a lot of people are saying right now. But that tastes good. So I was in the military during COVID, and it was a good experience. I mean, the teleworking was kind of cool, which is what this memo here addresses. But, since this is fourth person point of view, baby, you know, we look at everything from a different perspective. So I'm going to read this memorandum for some of y'all, because I know you're not going to go look at it your damn self. I mean, it's a short memorandum, just typical Department of Defense or government, rather. Government memorandums, nothing special. So, as I said, it was dated January 22nd, 2025. Guidance on presidential memorandum return to in-person work. The U.S. Office of Personnel Management, OPM, is providing the following guidance to agencies regarding President Trump's presidential memorandum, PM, return to in-person work. Says authority. Section 1, OPM is issuing this guidance under the Telework Enhancement Act of 2010, which requires agencies to consult with OPM in developing telework policies and tasks OPM with providing policy and policy guidance, as well as assisting agencies with establishing teleworking goals. This guidance also implements OPM directors' statutory duties to secure accuracy, uniformity, and justice in the functions of the office, and execute, administer, and enforce the civil service rules and regulations of the President and the office and the laws governing the civil service. Section 2, background. President Trump was elected with the mandate to increase the efficiency and accountability of the federal workforce. A glaring roadblock is that most federal offices presently are virtually abandoned. The vast majority of federal office workers have not returned to in-person work, even though the COVID-19 pandemic ended years ago. Many federal office workers never show up to the federal work site at all. Federal office buildings sit mostly empty, particularly Washington, D.C. area agency headquarters offices, devastating the local economy and serving as a national embarrassment. Virtually unrestricted telework has led to poor government services and made it more difficult to supervise and train government workers. Fairness requires that federal office employees show up to the work site each day like most other American workers. In addition, during the Biden administration, federal unions attempted to abuse the collective bargaining process to guarantee full-time telework into the indefinite future and forestall any requirement to return to the office. The president's PM, memorandum is PM, directs agency heads to take all necessary steps to terminate remote work arrangements and require employees to return to work in person at their respective duty stations on a full-time basis as soon as practicable. It allows agency heads to make exemptions they deem necessary and directs that the directive be implemented consistent with applicable law. The PM presidential memorandum reflects a simple reality. The only way to get employees back to the office is to adopt a centralized policy requiring return to work for all agencies across the federal government. Seeking to cajole individual agencies to try to get employees to return to the work site has not succeeded. Section 3, steps for agencies to return Step 3, steps for agencies to return to workers to the office. That's kind of like right, but in light of the PM, agencies should take the following steps to return workers to the office. No later than 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday, January 24th, 2025. Number 1, the agency head or acting agency head should revise their agency's telework policy issued under 5 USC Section 6502A, Section 1A, to state that eligible employees must work full time at their respective duty stations unless excused due to a disability, qualifying medical condition, or other compelling reason certified by the agency head and the employee supervisor. The agency head or acting agency head should email all employees notifying them of President Trump's PM return to in-person work, attach a copy of the PM, and notify employees of the agency's intention to fully comply with the PM. A copy of the PM is attached as Appendix 1. The agency should notify OPM of the agency's telework managing officer and assign that individual responsibility for complying with the guidance herein. The agency should advise OPM of the date that the agency will be in full compliance with the new telework policy. If an employee's official duty station is more than 50 miles from any existing agency office, the agency should take the steps to move the employee's duty station to the most appropriate agency office based on the employee's duties and job function. OPM recommends that agencies set a target date of approximately 30 days for full compliance with the PM, subject to any exclusions granted by the agency and any collective bargaining obligations. And then, of course, the appendix that he referenced in there on page 4 says, Appendix 1, President Trump's presidential memorandum return to in-person work. And it says, heads of all departments and agencies in the executive branch of the government shall, as soon as practical, take all necessary steps to terminate remote work arrangements and require employees to return to work in person at their respective duty stations on a full-time basis. Provide that the department and agency head shall make exemptions they deem necessary. This memorandum shall be implemented consistent with applicable law. Okay. Whew. Oh boy. I think I got that out pretty fast. So, since this is fourth person point of view, we're going to look at it from a different perspective. As I said, I was in the military during COVID. It was different. A lot of people got to telework. A lot of people did not. The military did not shut down during COVID like you think. Because the military rarely shuts down. The military has to be functioning 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It has to. So when there's things like COVID, of course, certain elements of the military, I'm not going to say shut down, but you were allowed to telework. Just like places, certain departments of the federal government. So, let's look at it from a fourth person perspective. I highlighted a part in here on Section 2 background. It says President Trump was elected with a mandate to increase the efficiency and accountability of the federal workforce. Okay, gotcha. A glaring roadblock is that most federal offices presently are virtually abandoned. The vast majority of federal office workers have not returned to in-person work, even though the COVID-19 pandemic ended years ago. Many federal office workers never show up to the federal work site at all. Federal office buildings sit mostly empty in Washington, D.C. area, agency headquarters, devastating the local economy and serving as a national embarrassment. Virtually unrestricted telework has led to poor government services and made it more difficult to supervise and train government workers. That part, that's Section 2, that's background. You can see my board. So, I believe everybody in the federal government, whether you are the commander-in-chief president or anybody in the federal government, should be forced to join the military. I do. I think you should do at least one term in the military. That's just to kind of get get your street credibility. I see what he's trying to say. But let me put you on some game here. People who have these federal jobs, I don't know what the proper definition is. They don't work every day. They don't have to. Certain people that work for the federal government, and it depends on what department, they have options. They can work. So some people can work 4 10-hour days. I don't need to write that. They can work 4 10-hour days. I think some places in the federal government, I think I might be wrong, I think you can work some like 3 12s. I think you can work like 3 12-hour shifts and get your time that way, because most of the workers in the federal government are salary workers, and a few are hourly, so you get the same thing. But when you work for the federal government, which you have to always remember, whether you're in the military or the federal government, sometimes you are on call. Not on call as in like call, but you might have to work long hours during certain times of the year. So even before COVID-19 happened, people were teleworking. Some jobs were telework. The Department of Defense was actually working on classes online, like classes they call like, actually I think a lot of them, like BLC, SLC, MLC, all types of classes were right at the point of being offered online, and COVID hit, which allowed the Department of Defense to use a lot of the online courses they were working on. And I know this based off my position. So it hit right on time, because some things that you do in the Department of Defense, it's a waste of government money anyway. So like, say for instance, somebody's going to a class at Fort Lee in Virginia, which they changed the name. I don't know what it is, and I'm not trying to learn. So say somebody from Texas was going to Virginia for a class. You might go to that class in person. They got to pay for your hotel. They got to give you per diem for food. They got to pay for your flight there and back, and they might have to get you a rental car. That costs money. So what the Department of Defense was in the process of working on was putting together online classes where a person in a classroom can teach you online. That was the whole purpose of the teams. Yeah, the teams. Like I worked for another place, and I was teleworking. We reported to the building like once a month, every Thursday. And this is as a civilian, but it was kind of neat too. So before COVID-19 happened, people were teleworking. But I understand what he's saying. Now, the second thing, federal office buildings sit mostly empty. Man, in the government, goddamn buildings are always empty. Anywhere you go in the Department of Defense or the government, you have empty buildings. You have empty buildings because the federal government owns so much real estate. They do. The federal government owns all type of stuff. And the way they operate, the federal government doesn't have to make money. So they might buy a shopping center and turn that shopping center into a federal, some type of federal building, right? They might dismantle certain departments throughout the years, where the first building that they used to use, they don't need it anymore because some law was passed or there was some type of innovation where they took that department and merged it with another one, they downsized. So you probably got an empty building there. What's that empty building gonna have inside of it? Furniture, chairs. It's gonna have all that. So stuff like that is common in the federal government. All the training made it more difficult to supervise and train government workers. Most of your training in the federal government is done online. You know, those little online courses you take, that's pretty much how all the work in the federal government is done. And maybe he means one-on-one time, which you can do that on Teams too. I did it a lot of times with a company I worked for when I got out of the Army. So, does teleworking really affect the federal government? I'm going to say no. Now that I'm more mature, this is what I want to share with you. So, from the fourth person perspective, one thing that the federal government gets when people telework, they save on the light bill. They save on the light bill. You can see that there. Light bill. Now, even though people are not reporting to work, most of those federal buildings have those sensors on there. So those lights are turning off and you don't have to turn them on. That's one positive thing that you can look at and say that the by people teleworking, they're not in there, which I'd have to look deeper into this, but it saves tax dollars because the federal government has to pay its light bill. Even though they're using our tax dollars to pay it, those are tax dollars. So it's saving on light bill. Just like us, water bill. You got all these people going in and out of this building, flushing toilets, drinking water, washing their hands. Water bill. Now, on the flip side, also, you do not have to maintain office space, meaning that if you've ever been into a federal building, you have a lot of offices and cubicles. Your tax dollars furnish that place. So you always got chairs and desks and tables and stuff. Stuff like that is other stuff you do not have to buy. Furniture, that you can save on this because that's a bill. I'm going to say you can. Some of those buildings you can sell. Now, I know you're not going to sell certain federal buildings that are probably in DC at the headquarters, which that's what he actually said, particularly Washington, D.C. area. So some of those people that he talking about there, they just got them enjoying that telework. They call that luxury, which I don't blame them. I would too. Now, in D.C., I don't think you necessarily have to be there to do your job because most jobs are done on the computer. And this is a modern time here. And I feel like what he's saying in this memorandum, if we end teleworking, is somehow going to make the government work better. It's not, because when you're not doing your job, you're not doing it. So some of them, I know you can't sell federal buildings in certain locations because they're attached to something bigger, like at the Pentagon or something. But you have a lot of federal buildings throughout the United States because everybody, let me see here. I remember this from class. I think it's less than, I don't want to be wrong. So it's a very small percentage of the federal government that actually work in Washington, D.C. I learned that in one of my classes. Yeah, so you got the you got the federal government, and everybody talks about D.C. It's only a handful of the federal workers, the essential workers, that they might work in D.C., but the rest of them, they are spread throughout the United States. You see where I'm going with this? So if he's saying that federal workers at the D.C. area headquarters offices should take their butts to work, I got you. He might want them there for his own benefit. But I don't think making everybody who telework go to the office is necessarily going to do anything. Like I said, I would sell some of them buildings throughout the United States. I know you can't sell them in D.C., but you got all types of buildings. You don't have to buy all this furniture. Furniture, I'm talking about tables, chairs, pens, markers, Sharpies. That's your tax dollars. You don't have to buy a lot of that stuff. That water bill, you think about a federal building when you have, what did I say yesterday? You got about 3 million federal workers. You think about 3 million people flushing the toilets, washing their hands, drinking out the water fountains, turning lights on, turning lights off. You think about, so you got to be smart when you, everybody in that building is using what? A computer. What does a computer use? Electricity. This runs up your light bill. So you got the computer, you got the computer adding to the light bill. Then what else did you have? You have all the cords and cables and stuff. So most people who are teleworking, they're using what they're issued, but they're also using their light bill. When I was teleworking, I was told if you use X amount of electricity compared to your normal light bill, you can write it off as a tax write-off. So that's something else you want to keep in mind. Environment. That's another thing that teleworking does. That should make some liberal person super happy. Save the environment. You get to save the environment. Because when you got 3 million people driving to work every day, what does that cause? Pollution. It causes pollution. That's one of the biggest things I like from teleworking. Teleworking saves the environment. Most of we keep talking about climate change and all that. Hell, all climate change is man and woman are polluting the earth faster than the earth can take a deep breath and balance itself out. So the environment is probably going to be one of your biggest factors in this, because you got 3 million people driving to work. You got 3 million people going to lunch. You got 3 million people going back to the office. You got 3 million people going home every day. So the environment is probably the environment, saving the environment is probably the biggest asset that you're going to get from teleworking. Yep. That's probably the best thing. And that's what I'm standing on. So poor government services. Once again, if he's talking about in that DC headquarters area and some sausage head person is at home not handling their business, he might be on to something there, but I don't think you have to necessarily report to work. If I was in his position, I would probably authorize teleworking, but if you work in DC at the headquarters agency, I would probably want you there at least 3 to 4 times a week. And even some of these people at this DC headquarters area, they're federal employees. So some of them might be doing what I told you earlier. They might be working either 4 10-hour shifts, or I think you can work 3 12s or something. They have those federal hours where a lot of people can set their own schedule. Even in the military, your hours are off. Like some days you might have to report at this time. Other days you can report later. Some days you can leave early. Some days you have to stay later. So it's all kind of off. Like I said on my last podcast about do we need DEI? I think that's the one. President Trump's coming in trying to clean house, and maybe he's got his reason, but I think he should slow down. Once again, on this memorandum from January 22nd, I think he should have came in and just took a chill pill and said, let me see how this teleworking thing is working for my employees and for the country. But like I just told you here, as taxpayers, we save on this now. We save on the light bill, water bill, furniture, and the federal government, usually when they buy furniture, they ain't buying no cheap shit now. No. No, they buy them heavy desks where it take 5 and 6 soldiers to pick them up. I mean, depending on the federal building, everybody might not have a $5,000 or $10,000 desk, but I can guarantee you it ain't cheap because the federal government don't buy cheap stuff. Not when it comes to furniture. So you take furniture, you talking chairs, you talking about shredders. See, one thing about making people telework, okay, that would fall under environment. So we could talk about paper. Paper. See, when you're in the office, you're going back and forth to the printer. Then you take all that paper and you shred it. When you're at your house, you print on your own computer, which is what I did. And all your waste paper, you end up disposing it yourself. The federal government has to pay somebody every month to come around and gather all the damn paper from the shredder. And it's usually like a company. This is what they do. They pull up in this truck, they come in to the building, they get all this shredded paper. And I'm talking, it's like a lot. And they load it in the back of this big truck and they go dispose it, which I think they burn it or something. Or maybe they recycle it, I don't know, but it's a cost. And what else? What is another benefit from teleworking? Teleworking is so beneficial to people. I like teleworking because I could go to bed late, wake up in the morning 10 minutes before I needed to log on, and you can work, cook breakfast, work. Because when you're at the office, it's very rare that you're working every minute of every hour and every hour of the day until you leave. I feel like sometimes you'll get less done at work because you got more distractions because some people don't work. Some people like to walk around the office and talk and deal with their work husbands and wives, if you into that right there. So I actually think President Trump should reconsider this whole teleworking thing. DC, if you're working in DC at the headquarters, maybe you need to be there, especially if you're not performing. Because if you're at the headquarters and you're not performing, there is a problem. And you should be held accountable. Yeah, that's pretty much my take on that right there. Not too much else we can talk about on there. Yeah, but if the federal government ends their telework policy, I'm pretty sure that a lot of the other companies might start to end theirs because a lot of buildings were available because people started working from home. Working from home became the new norm, not just in the federal government. It became the new norm, like across the board. And I think that's something we should keep in place. I mean, if you're a common person, working from home kind of benefits you. I mean, it was just my mindset because the job I took, if I had to report to work every day, I wouldn't have took it. I took it because it paid a lot of money and I got to telework. So to me, the way I think, I mean, I feel like any American should want to telework because if you're just that much of a nobody, that you gotta go to a office all day and sit there. You can't leave. You can't explore. I mean, when you're at your house, you can go outside and lift weights for 15 minutes. You can go to the bathroom when you want to, and it's clean. You can go in the kitchen and eat throughout the day. You can cook catfish or salmon while you are working, as long as you get your job done. Then on the flip side, you can actually work later because the time you usually would spend in traffic, you're at home already. So teleworking has benefits. It's not just a detriment to the whole system. And I feel like all these things right here, especially these bills, because these damn bills are happy. I got an opportunity to look at the light bill one time for a unit I was in. And those light bills are expensive. I mean, think about your light bill. Now you think about the damn government's light bill for a damn federal building where people's going in and out. Then you think about some of these places have customers where they go in and out. So you got all this usage. Yeah. So the environment is the biggest thing that I think we all benefit from by people teleworking. And then with the environment, of course, the paper and all that stuff there. It even, I guess that's something that you can add in. It helps some people on their insurance because you wasn't traveling to work as much. If you don't travel as much, some insurance companies will give you a discount. So it help you. It help you on your insurance. It help you on your gas. It saved on your gas. Look at that. You see all the benefits. It help you with your tires because you wasn't going to work every day. So there's a lot of benefits. I feel like people should, like if you work for a civilian company, y'all teleworking, I think you should say something because teleworking has a lot of benefits, a lot. And somebody on the flip side might say, well, all these right here are added to your home expenses. Not necessarily. I mean, I used to let my windows up and let the natural light come in, and then you can also write a lot of this off on your taxes. But I feel like my freedom is very important. I mean, being able to work from home, still making good money, I mean, and not having to report to a building, to me, that's priceless. I mean, that's a luxury that normal people don't have, that the wealthy have. Because Donald Trump, before he was president, he didn't report to no damn building. No, they don't. People like him, they don't report to work. They wake up in the morning and eat breakfast, drink coffee, and take their time. They go play golf for about 2 or 3 hours. Get a few phone calls, make some things happen. And that's what teleworking did for me. Teleworking gave me freedom. And I was at home doing all types of stuff for myself and the company. Yeah, so I'm all for teleworking. But let me know what y'all think in the comment sections. This has been 4th Person Point of View. I'm out, baby.